and welcome to Planning for College. I'm Groelle, and it is my pleasure to host these programs designed to assist students and their parents with a transition to college. This show brings to you a number of guest speakers who will share their expert advice on finding the right college, preparing for and getting into college, paying for college, and tips for succeeding once you get there. For nearly 30 years, I've had the privilege of counseling students and their parents through the college admissions process. The frenzy around college admissions has increased as college selection has become more competitive, along with the rise in the cost of attending college. There are a growing number of colleges where the cost of attendance is over $60,000 a year. And although Florida public universities' in-state tuition remains among the lowest in the nation, they have risen 15% in recent years. This segment will offer tips on applying for college, funding a college education, receiving financial aid, and for increasing your chances of institutional and foundation scholarships. It's my pleasure today to welcome Dr. Pat Watkins and Marilyn Howard with us. And Marilyn, I'd like to start with you. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Robin. I'm delighted to be here. And on a personal note, as a parent of two young adults now that we put through college, I know how important this whole process is for the students and for their families. As the executive director of the Manatee Community Foundation, we have scholarships at the foundation. It's one of many programmatic functions that we have at the foundation. And often people will say, well, what type of scholarships do you have and how did they get started? So just so people can understand, we have donors, people like you and everyone in the community that might have an interest in a certain area. We've had donors that have started scholarships to honor someone who's passed away, and maybe that person worked in construction, and so a college scholarship has been established in architecture or in construction management. We had a wonderful lady whose aunt passed away, left her inheritance. The aunt was involved in finance and felt that women should know how to manage their own money. So the niece set up a scholarship in her aunt's name, and the scholarship indeed is for women who attend a four-year college and want to major in business or finance. So the stories are, for as many different scholarships as we often have that many different stories about how they were developed. So not only are there just general educational support scholarships, there are some very specific scholarships at the foundations. And as people go through the process, they need to check and just find out what opportunities are available. Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is that the scholarships there are not just for rising students that are entering their freshman year, traditionally aged students, but you also support students who are mid-age or they're thinking about returning to school.
We have a variety. We have, for example, we have a college scholarship that is for graduates in library science. We'll have, we also have a number of vocational scholarships for students that are returning to improve their education or get a nursing scholarship or a certified nursing or a dental tech kind of anything at the vocational schools. So we have a lot of those scholarships, but certainly within the field, if you do not have to be a high school graduate, if you've already started your college career and now maybe your funding has run out, your circumstances have changed, all you have to do is come in and apply during the window that we have before the deadlines for applications are due, and certainly will be considered.
Well, Pat, I know that much of your work has been over the years specifically perhaps more on the traditional age student, where students are looking to, our seniors today here in Manatee County and across the nation are hearing back from their applications, and along with those offers of admission, they're also looking very carefully at the financial aid awards.
And financial aid, Robin, is a primary concern for the student and family in choosing a college. Now, I've been with Eckerd College in St. Petersburg since 2004, but I started financial aid in 1974, and I have seen the rise in college costs. And college can be affordable if you plan for it in advance and also take advantage of the programs that are around for students and parents.
Mm-hmm. I know that there is a timeline, that it sounds like you mentioned, Marilyn, that there's a time window with the foundation scholarships. And I know that from the admissions point of view, there's a time window for applying to college too, because many of the students have already, that are seniors, gone through the doors of making sure they had their applications complete and in on time. And now the colleges are getting back, and some are enrolling admissions, so they've been finding out throughout the fall and early winter. And I know that there are many colleges that will be holding their decisions back until around April 1. So this is a time to find out if you're into college, and then specifically, particularly for seniors, I think that they're really looking seriously at how are we going to put this together.
Yeah. We are in the thick of scholarship season right now, is what I would call it. Most of the deadlines for our college scholarships from the Community Foundation, April 18th is a deadline that is looming. Now, we do have a few that have trailing dates, but I think most students should be thinking in terms of an April deadline for college scholarships, and then they would need to also check with the other community foundations. Some have a little bit earlier time window, so that every student, if they're looking at local community scholarships and looking at college scholarships from the community foundations, which in our area would be Manatee Community Foundation, Community Foundation of Sarasota, Gulf Coast Community Foundation, and also the Selby Foundation has, they all have wonderful, wonderful scholarships that Manatee County students are eligible to apply for. And I would say that the Selby Foundation has the largest grants. They normally do probably 50 to 70, it really depends. And those scholarship awards are usually in the range of $5,000 up to $7,000. And it's one general application, and it's based upon financial need. Community Foundation of Sarasota probably awards about 100 scholarships to Manatee County students. And again, it's one general application, and then you go through the process. And I would say about 80 to 90% of those scholarships are also based on financial need. So you check with the website for each community foundation and get the details as to the deadline dates. And usually there's just a common app that's online. If not, they will give you specific directions, like if you need to email, if you need to download a form and submit it because it's still paper. We're still using paper at the Manatee Community Foundation. Next year will probably be our first for totally online applications, but they would download the form and submit it.
I think a key there, and I heard you mention this a couple of times, is demonstrating financial need. And there is a formula that I believe that all colleges are using, and it's so important for parents to know this timeline. And so I'm going to ask you, Pat, if you would, to walk us through what some of your tips would be for parents that may be listening about how to put together the information the colleges need to know in a timely way, and how they can best prepare themselves for trying to meet these costs that will be coming up for their children.
The first thing they need to do is fill out the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. Now, we usually speak in acronyms, so I'm going to try to explain what that is before I say it. And if you don't understand, stop me, because that's my financial aid speak. But you complete the FAFSA January 1st of the year you're going to start school. So January 1st, 2012 would be for starting school in fall 2012. And you'll be asked to report information off of your IRS 1040. And many colleges have their own priority deadline for their own institutional or other federal funds. And that deadline may be February 1st or March 15th or April 1st. And most people will say, well, I haven't done my taxes yet. What do I do?
I hear that too.
I'm going to lose the deadline. I'm going to lose out on aid. Estimate. Do your best estimate that you can of what your income will be, and you can always go back into FAFSA and correct that at a later date. This year, you can also, after you've completed your IRS 1040, 2 weeks afterwards, go in and ask to retrieve that information directly from the IRS. So you don't need to go back to your own figures, but it will populate directly from the IRS records if they have your tax return on file.
Is that new?
That is new. It started last year, and this is the first year that it's been available from the beginning of the awarding cycle and the financial aid application process. And they are hoping that most people will use the IRS retrieval because it will cut down on the number of questions that the financial aid office may have to ask you later. We'll know that the information is accurate if you've done the IRS retrieval. And what happens after that is that the school will get your information. So it's very important when you're completing the FAFSA to list all the possible schools that you want to have this application go to, even if you haven't been accepted or applied to that school. Indicate that school on your FAFSA so that once you are admitted, the financial aid office can quickly go out to you with an award letter saying, this is how much financial aid you'll be getting. When you get the FAFSA information back, and a lot of people assume that FAFSA makes awards. FAFSA is only the application. It goes to the central processing service that then edits the application and checks to see if the student is a U.S. citizen, makes sure that the Social Security number is accurate, that if you're male and over 18, that you're registered with the Selective Service. The information then is drawn down by the schools electronically. And then from there, the schools review the financial aid application and make the award to the students. When the parents and the students go through this, they'll get what's called an EFC, which is an expected family contribution. And that can be very concerning for a parent when they see that expected family contribution. They'll say, well, I don't have that money to pay for college. How am I going to come up with $20,000 a year as my EFC? But that is a measuring tool for the financial aid office. It may not be what you're actually going to pay for college. You may pay less. If you're going to a state university where the cost of tuition may only be $6,000 a year, if you're only if you're not living on campus, you're only going to pay that $6,000 a year. You're not going to pay $20,000 a year. So you have to work with the colleges to help find out how much are you going to have to pay after the financial aid is applied to your bill.
I know that in my work with students, I encourage them to apply to a number of schools. And the cost issue is one that comes up almost, as a top concern of most American families. Certainly those in the middle income area have felt squeezed as the cost of college has been going up, and that's been particularly true here in Florida with our state schools. Historically, and they still actually are, some of the lowest tuitioned costs in the country. But that doesn't help with a family who maybe had been here 5 years ago and have heard that Florida Bright Futures, which I think we'll talk a little bit about that, will cover most of the tuition. And so these are new costs for many families here in Florida as their children are going to look to school, because these are ones that have historically been covered. And now the Florida Bright Future is going down in cost, and there's not as much grant money available for each family. And the cost at the same time, the tuition is going up. So there's a gap. And although it could be seen as a reasonable amount compared to the national cost in general, families are kind of like caught unaware. And one of the things sometimes I know that families are interested in is they don't have students in high school yet. They know that they would like, they have a college-bound culture in their family. They hope for a college education for their children, and they're hoping to provide that kind of long-term planning. What kind of clues or tips would you offer a family with someone, let's say, in elementary school as they look ahead?
The best thing you can do is to save for college. and start as early as possible. When you get to the junior year of high school, it's too late. You're not going to be able to have that money saved away for 4 years of college education. So start a savings plan or a 529 plan or the Florida prepaid plan. Work with a professional certified planner to see where is the best way you can save your money that will be sheltered perhaps from taxes later on for the student to be used that for college costs when they go on to college. In many instances, the 529 plans can be transferable to other members of the family or can be used for other purposes. So check with your financial planner about setting up a good savings plan. That's the first road that you can take. The second road is to start planning as early as the freshman year in high school for looking for those wonderful scholarships that the Manatee County Community Foundation awards to students in this county, as well as scholarships that are available nationally. Don't ever pay for a scholarship search. If you get a letter saying, congratulations, give us $25 and you're going to get the Americans Dean Society Scholarship, the only one making money is the person who sent you that letter. So never pay for a scholarship search. There's some very good scholarship free searches on the web, and you can be put on a list to be notified when more scholarships are added. So do that early. You don't want to be in the financial aid office trying to figure out how to pay your bill on Labor Day and find out that you're $4,000 short. I know that people have tight schedules and that our children are very busy, but you need to make a little bit of time. So if you can take time to spend a half an hour on Facebook each day, or texting your friends, or downloading music, you can also use that time to find some other scholarships. If you find one $5,000 scholarship, and that's renewable for 4 years, that's $20,000. And do you want to say you don't have time to find $20,000? Take the time and do it early. You don't want to be left out in the cold. And I hear that so often in June and July. Students are saying, well, I was going to apply for scholarships, but I never got around to it. I was too busy. So do it and plan in advance. That's the best advice. Then get in touch with the colleges that you're going to and look on their websites. All colleges will have a net price calculator. This will give you an estimate of what your family contribution will be for college, as well as perhaps the school's financial aid or federal financial aid. So you can get an idea of what your financial aid will be when they go to college. These are good ways to plan for it.
I know that FAFSA for many families is a stumbling block. And I think it's across the spectrum in a sense. I think families who feel as if they plan for college, they have the financial resources to do so, feel as if the FAFSA is intrusive and they don't wish to complete it. And then on the other end of the spectrum, of course, we have folks who maybe their EFC, their estimated family contribution, literally is zero, where there is no discretionary income left over from living expenses. And so those folks may not be familiar with filling in these kinds of forms, or perhaps they're not up to date on their taxes. What kinds of recommendations would you have?
I understand so many people have form fright when it comes to the FAFSA. They get totally overwhelmed by it. I would say check with a local financial aid office. They will be the first area who can help you complete the FAFSA. In Florida, several weeks ago, we had the College Goal Sunday, where financial aid administrators across the state were available to help you complete the FAFSA online at no charge. So that would be the best way to go first. Financial aid people are committed to helping all students, whether they go to their school or not, complete the FAFSA and try to get into college. So use that first. Make an appointment with the financial aid office and go over your FAFSA with them.
You know, recently I was working with a family, and she brought up the form, and she was looking at it, and I looked at it, and I said, this doesn't look like the FAFSA that I'm familiar with. And you know what we had done?
What?
She'd gone on to FAFSA.com.
Oh, that's a big
mistake. And so I think that's so important for people to realize that there are these folks out there that have these similar websites, but what they're looking for is FAFSA.gov.
FAFSA.gov is free. There are commercial, profit-making companies that will offer a service. They'll take all your FAFSA information, and then at the end of it, ask for your credit card number. If you get there, you're at the wrong site.
That's good to clarify.
And the first thing to remember is the first word in FAFSA is free. You're not supposed to pay anyone to complete the FAFSA. So don't just do a normal, put FAFSA in and take the first site. Make sure you go FAFSA.gov.
So hopefully, if there's a senior parent out there, they have completed it by now. It certainly comes available right after the first of the year. So they put in their information. Much of it is connected to their 1040, whichever form they filled in on the 1040, and it can be estimated. So if they're not really actually ready to pay or file, they can wait until April 15th to do that if they want, and then they can update their information. Okay. So let's say they've estimated, and they have their PIN number, and then the student has a PIN number, and they've pressed the electronic signature, and it's gone.
It's gone.
Now what?
It then goes to the Central Processing Center that, as I said, checks some edits on Social Security number. Make sure that when you're completing the FAFSA and it asks for the Social Security number, you put the student's Social Security number in first, not the parents, because that will then reject the application. So it goes and checks for various rejects. Then that information is made available to the colleges that you've listed. And the schools will then electronically download that information. We'll review the FAFSA information and send a financial aid award.
So they get their financial aid award after they've been admitted, or maybe together at the same time in some cases.
It may come very close after the admission process, and that's why it's very good, even if you haven't been admitted, to get that FAFSA into the financial aid office early.
Now this net calculator that you mentioned, and that's a new initiative,
right?
Which was
that was a federal initiative.
A federal initiative for all schools.
For all schools, has to have a net price calculator reasonably available on their website, so families can plan for college.
So you can do that well before you've ever filled in the FAFSA.
Exactly. Okay. You can do that before. You can do that 2 or 3 years before, and just each year go back and update to see what the college is going to be saying. Your possibility of getting institutional scholarships or federal aid will be, because that's updated every year.
So for high school parents, and they're looking ahead, let's say they're in 9th grade or 10th grade, I guess this is a nice addition to the EFC calculators that are available online for free, either through College Board or Forecaster.
Right.
Those are 2 great sites to go to do get a general ballpark of what the colleges might be anticipating you can afford to go to college. But then the net price calculator will tailor that to any particular institution?
Yes, every institution has their own net price calculators. Some may be very bare bones and only give you information about your eligibility for federal funds. Others have administered their calculators so it can calculate the student's potential for merit scholarships, as well as institutional grants and federal and state grants. So we'll give an entire picture of what the family could anticipate for a financial aid award. It will list the current year's cost and show how much would be remaining. How much would you have to pay for college after that financial aid is applied?
So after a college gets back to a family, and let's say they've applied to a couple of colleges, so they may have a couple of financial aid awards in front of them, that is when families really can sit down and know, what is it going to cost me to have my child go to this college, and can we afford that? And what we're finding is that there are some schools that may offer them admission, and let's say the student may fall in the top third of their applicant pool, and those would be likely to the students, perhaps not only to qualify for some need-based aid, but for some merit-based aid. And the combination of the two may cover all of their need, which means that they financially, this is a go for the family. But then there may be other colleges that will offer need-based aid and or merit-based aid, but their cost of attendance is well beyond what the financial award is. So there's a gap, so to speak. Okay, so with the gap, that's where the students who are looking to go beyond what the college can provide and looking at the community resources, where it can really make the difference to make this a reality for a student if that's the school they want to go to. Marilyn, what are some tips that you would provide students who might be listening, who might be qualified to apply and in enhancing their chances of scholarship?
I would tell them to be persistent. It pays off. They should be haunting the offices of their guidance counselors at this point in time. One of the other scholarships that we haven't talked about are the local community scholarships that are offered by the Rotary clubs, the AAUW, the sororities, you name it, service clubs. And the odds for a local student to be awarded a scholarship from a service club that is here locally is very high. And they have to find out about them, and the guidance counselors should have that on their websites. There is an old posting from last year on Manatee Connects, which is on Bradenton.com. It's www.manateeconnects.org. And they can pull that up, and there are links to those service clubs so that they can actually download this year's current application. But sometimes there could only be 4 or 5 students applying for a local scholarship. So the students really need to just be persistent, find out about them, fill them out, turn them in, and it can really, you qualify for 2 or 3 of those, could go a long way toward providing some additional gap funding for your college needs. So you know, involve your parents. If they will help look and scour some of these locations, they can help you. So be persistent and get out there. And I know many guidance counselors will tell the students, they'll ask, where are the scholarship applications? And they'll say, over there in that filing cabinet. Yeah. Well, open the drawer and start looking, and look for the ones that are just here locally, and they'll have a great chance at being awarded one of those scholarships.
Well, it's an important investment, and so it's certainly worth the time. Yeah. When you, I think we're about out of time here, and I wanted to give an opportunity to just maybe some final comments that you might have for families that they should keep in mind as they look ahead.
Don't select yourself out of a college because of costs. There may be merit scholarships that you're not aware of that you may be eligible for, or institutional grants. Let the college work with you so that we can try to make a good financial plan and a good financial fit. Because colleges not only have to be an academic fit, a social fit, but also a financial fit. And if you don't have those 3, you're not going to be successful.
And how about you, Marilyn?
Well, I would just recommend for the students to fill out their forms carefully. If you don't understand something, call the organization and find out what they're asking for. And if it takes a personal statement or an essay, do the best job that you can. Many of those essays, you can turn those into all the institutions that you're applying for. So get someone to check it, spell check it. Don't sabotage your own application by being careless and in a rush. So take your time, do it right, and you'll usually be able to use it on many, many applications.
Marilyn, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Same to you, Pat. And it's nice for I think you to be a face for folks out there as Director of Financial Aid. You are here to serve. And I think that I have found our area financial aid directors to be extraordinarily helpful to families. And I will be happy to field questions or concerns about funding and education. I thank my guests today for being with us and for today's program. A college education is the largest investment a person ever makes in themselves. Future programs in this series will cover tips for preparing for college, staying on track with the college application process, putting together a winning college application, and the ever-changing state of college admissions. Thanks to METV for making this show possible, and thanks for watching.